or whenever YouTube says, and we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Kent.
And joining us tonight is a fan favorite, Cam Hayes. Hey, C494. Cam, welcome back, buddy.
Hey, man.
Missed you.
It's been a while.
It has been. Matter of fact, it's even been a couple of weeks since we've done a show.
Really?
Yeah, Kent and I kind of... Shit got busy. So what had happened was I wasn't told this when I was brought into this world, but apparently adulting sucks.
Boy. Well, I guess, yeah. Well, since you guys have been gone for a couple weeks, I mean, like, I know normally you guys are like, hey, what's new with you since the last time you were on the show? Like that kind of thing. Since you guys haven't done a show in a couple weeks, hey, Tej, what's new with you?
Yeah, great question, Cam. I'm glad you asked. No, actually, so, you know, my typical off-camera life, things are actually going really well. Crazy though they may be, making some really good headway in my professional, personal job. Personally, just in hobbies and stuff, focusing on doing the jiu-jitsu, man. I've got two big tournaments coming up. We've got the Nashville Open here in about a month, and then I will be going to Vegas for Master Worlds.
Is that gi or no gi?
Gi.
You in white belt or blue belt?
White belt still.
What weight division?
Super heavy, so up to 222.
That's super heavy?
Yes.
Ugh.
I was going to say, what's beyond that?
Yeah. Ultra heavy.
All right.
What's the big motherfucker weight class?
Yeah, ultra heavy. No, I thought I was going to be able to cut down to 208. So here's the tricky thing for those of you playing the home game. The Nashville Open and Master Worlds is presented by the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation. Their weight classes or their weigh-in criteria, you actually have to weigh in your gi.
Yeah.
So you're going to tack on at least 5 pounds to whatever you currently weigh. So in order for me to actually make heavyweight, I would have to probably I'd have to get down to at least 203, which I could probably do. But at the same time, like I started cutting down below 210 and I started noticing my strength and stamina was suffering. Malnourishment will fucking do that to you. So I was like, you know what? Let's stay healthy for it. Super heavy's a good weight for me. So
yeah,
that's kind of,
I lost a lot of weight too. So but anyway. Oh, what else is new with TJ?
I mean, that's really about it, man. I mean,
you've been doing the jiu-jitsu thing.
Yeah, dude, just a lot of it. My whole family's doing it. So it's a really cool, it's a really cool thing that we all get to do together. And reading a lot. So what about you, Kent? What's new with you, buddy? I mean, we barely even, folks, just as all seriousness here, like Kent and I went from being able to talk like 1 to 2 hours a day, where I think today is probably the most we've talked in a week?
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk. I love you, buddy. It's okay.
No, that's fine. I don't want to talk about it.
No, it hurts my feelings.
No, it's fine. All them people with your big new fancy job and your promotions and your corporate cars and your fucking, I don't know, suits and.
I hope we're talking about TJ because none of that shit applies to me.
Oh, TJ.
Oh, no, wait. So no corporate car. That would be cool. Although that'd be kind of messed up with my luck. They'd give me a corporate car and I work from home.
You have to log your miles.
Yeah. Hey, TJ, you've only gone like 8 this month. You want to talk about that? But speaking of suits and weight loss, so I have one expensive suit, right? Off the rack stuff is perfectly acceptable, right? But you should every man should have a nice suit, like a business level suit. I went and paid a lot of money for this suit.
Every self-respecting man. So
okay, yeah, fair point. But I got this suit back when I was heavy. I haven't worn this thing in a long time, but over 18 months. I had to go get it, retailored. They had to completely recut The whole suit, the pants and jacket. The pants went from a size 42 to a 36. And literally after we got done with the measures, they were like, "You sure you don't just want to buy a new suit? Because this is a lot of work."
They were like, "You went from here to here."
Yeah.
We're just gonna.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a bit of an ego boost. I felt good about myself with that one.
Right.
So, what about you?
I don't want to talk about.
Tell us what's new, man.
No, I don't want to talk about. No, TJ and I are this close to a breakup at this point. I haven't had phone sex with him in months. It's gotten bad. It's bad. No. Well,
since I lost those curvy hips, you just don't look at me the same.
I fucking love you, man.
I can see that.
You know, in all seriousness, this kind of a thing, like we've all lost weight, everybody's doing better in life. Shut up, Kim. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Steve said you were doing great. You're doing great. He said, "Look at where you're at now."
You're doing absolutely fantastical. Yeah, man. Pushing the weight loss shit, staying on the workout, staying on the diet, teaching my ass off, corporate jobbing my ass off, still doing the professor stuff. Oh my God, my kid's gonna be 40, and I'm gonna wake up one day and miss the whole thing. It's just been crazy. Mrs. Howard and I just had our 7th wedding anniversary. Right? She put up with me it's been 14 years total, 7 years married, 7 years not married. So we're right at the halfway trial period point. I figure she can get rid of her $10.99 subscription at any time now. She can just return that shit if she wants. She has it. Little dude is not little anymore. New words all the time. Yeah. Just taught defensive pistol metrics down in North Carolina a couple weeks ago. That went fan-fucking-tastic.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, and that was like the inaugural
first time
voyage. Yeah, the maiden voyage, if you will, of that particular POI, right?
Well, it was indeed. Was received super duper well. Lots of good AARs, lots of good reviews. If you really look at the people who took that class, probably maybe all of them were instructor level. Maybe 15 out of 16 were instructor level candidates, kind of people. And for them to all take that class and to come away so positively was like the highlight of my summer. Other than that, been shooting IDPA, been traveling, been camping, shooting. Life is good, man. I have no complaints. Cam, what about you?
Oh, so
this is gonna be like a country song. Play it in reverse, and Cam gets all his shit back.
Yeah. So this weekend was real shitty. On September 11th, my brother-in-law died. So this past weekend, my brother-in-law died. Yesterday, his wife died. So my sister-in-law died on Monday. Both got COVID, and they both died. But I also just got a divorce, so I guess I'm not allowed to be sad about it or whatever. So there's that. I'm blocked on Facebook right now, so there's that. That's why I couldn't really promote the podcast, is because I'm currently blocked on Facebook.
We'll be sure to take it out of your pay just to add to everything else you've got going on.
Let us kick you a little bit. Let us add insult to injury. I am working at a different place now because I got fired from my last job. So now I'm making CNC programs for a new stone company. So I'm doing that. I completely quit shooting for months. The last time I shot was Snipers Unknown back in October, recreationally. And then after that, I didn't shoot for months. And I just like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago was the first time I had gone and shot recreationally. So I'm getting back into that and getting back into my rifle cartridge and stuff like that. Obviously, that ended up flopping because there's no way I can compete with Hornady. So, yeah, all of that. So now, since last time we spoke, I've gotten divorced. I've lost some friends and family. and got fired from a job, got a new job, got a better job. I actually like where I work now. And stopped shooting. So it's been pretty shitty. But I was supposed to get out of the Army. That was a thing too. And that's kind of the subject of discussion. So I don't know if I should touch on it now or after we actually get into these conversations, but I was supposed to get out of the Army back in October. And the last time I was on y'all's podcast, I had talked about how excited I was about getting out of the Army. And then I ended up getting a phone call from the state sergeant major asking if I could help. They asked me for help. And the way that I needed to help was by re-enlisting and doing another job. And that's what I did. I re-enlisted to do this job. And then I found out that this job really sucks. And that's why they wanted me to do it. So that's where I'm at.
There's a mix somewhere in here between that scene from The Godfather 3. Every time I get out, they bring me back in. And Admiral Akbar going, it's a trap. Man, I've got, on October 5th, I will have 14 years in.
Might as well go for 20.
Yeah, that's what they say. I mean, I re-enlisted like an idiot for another 6, so I can't even get out now until 2026. So
yeah, so that is what we call indefinite status.
Yeah, and by then I'll have 19 years in.
So what's your new job that you re-enlisted for?
The Army? For the Army?
Yeah.
I am currently the sniper section leader for the 120th Infantry.
That's what I thought.
Sounds really cool, but there's some challenges with that.
Well, remember, Cam, it's not a job, it's an adventure.
Yeah, that's rad.
Well, buddy, I'm sorry to hear about all the plight that you've been suffering over the last several days, weeks, months. But you know what? You've always got a home here on the Sling'N podcast, and damn it, we're glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
So this is a perfect segue because we're here to talk about young, stupid people joining the Army.
It just so happens you know 2 of them.
It so happens I know several of them. One of them lives in this fucking basement. Long story short, family member, young guy, lost his daddy. Now I'm his daddy, kind of. He didn't listen to me. I told him to go to college. And he said, fuck that. He signed some papers. Now he's going to the Army. Throughout that.
Sounds familiar.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, yep. All of that.
Right. I offered young guy place to live, food, house, Sophie in exchange for pay for your own college. He said, nah, fuck all that. I'm going to go do push-ups and shit. So,
right on.
This is one of them there podcasts we should have done before. And I get to play the interviewer guy because I'm the only man on the panel with no experience in this realm. So I get to ask you 2 grizzled veterans and currently serving folk like about Army life and all that stuff. So, first thing first, right off the rip, the meanest, nastiest, dirtiest question I could ask either of you. Either of you pick it up first, whoever wants to take this one first. If you could go back and not do it at all, would you?
No.
Right. All right. I kind of had an idea that I knew that answer. But
there's a caveat.
Okay.
I would have gone the same route, but in a different branch.
Oh, so hold up. I was about to get to the whole what would you have done differently down the line.
Okay, perfect.
But
I was gonna say I would have done some shit different, but
sure. But neither of you 2 regret choosing to serve our country. Neither of you 2 regret giving a good portion of your lives and livelihood to service.
That's correct.
Okay, fair enough. So that being said, whoever wants to take it first, give me a 10,000-foot view of your military career track. Whoever wants to go first.
Cam's the guest. No, Cam's the guest. Go ahead, buddy.
Ladies first, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you do have longer hair than me.
So I joined back in 2007. Wow. I joined as a 19 Delta, which is Cab Scout. So like your job is reconnaissance. Did that for a little while. Got fortunate enough to get put into a sniper unit early on in my military career because that's what I wanted to do anyway. I went to the sniper tryouts. I made it through tryouts, and then I stayed in the sniper section for 2 years, and then was told to go be like an instructor or whatever. Like they had. Wow, it's really hard to like. I'm skipping over a lot of shit. I transferred over to another unit to be an instructor. Then the government shutdown happened, and whenever the government shutdown happened, I ended up having to change MOSs. So then I became a truck driver, which is like complete opposite end of the spectrum. Hindsight being 2020, I am glad that I did it because I learned a lot about how logistics work in the Army and stuff like that by doing so. So I am glad I did it. But did that, ranked up as an 88 Mike or whatever. Went overseas. I was an instructor most of the time I've been. I've taught almost the whole time I've been in. Whenever I came back, I was just like ready to get out from this last deployment, the 2017, 2018 deployment. I was just ready to get out. I'd bounce around from unit to unit and did all kinds of shit. And then instead of getting out, I was asked to help out doing this job that I'm doing currently. And, like for me, I'm one of those people that like, if you ask me for help, I feel like if I have the means to help, I will help. So I was asked to help out with this unit, and I got there and I was like, oh, wow, y'all did need help, but I don't know if I can help. So, and that's where I'm at now. And I re-enlisted to help, and it looks like that might have been a mistake. But yeah, that's a 1,000-foot view. That's what you wanted, right? Like that's the very broad scope.
So 14 and change years in service.
No, 14 October 5th.
We'll give it to you.
Yeah,
all right, we're close.
Give you 14.
But by the time folks hear this, for damn sure about that, 14 years of service. Yeah. How many overseas deployments?
For the Army, 1. As a contractor, 2.
Okay.
So 3 trips to Afghanistan.
When did contractor life come into play?
Early in my military career. So you can do, you can SUTA drills and stuff like that. So like the way that works is you get approval from your chain of command, and they can SUTA you up to 6 months, or at least they used to be able to. I mean, like shit changes all the time, so I don't know if they can still do that. But they can SUTA you, so you can go do things for contract companies, and you get not a conditional release, because a conditional release would mean that you would have bad years, and you would SUTA up those drills. Like you would I keep using the word SUTA.
I was just about to stop you.
Yeah, so basically a SUTA is where instead of going to drill, you show up and do stuff like during the week instead. And the way it used to be is you could SUTA up to 6 months. So you could go do whatever for up to 6 months and then be, and still have a good year. Like that's kind of the thing about the National Guard is like you have like good years and bad years. And it depends on like if you get the right amount of mutas. And mutas are like days, basically. Like you have to have a certain amount of days.
Yeah, days of service. So to help illustrate what Cam's trying to say here is because I also did some time in the reserves. MUTA, if I remember, so MUTA is the acronym, Military Unit Training something or other. Essentially, the number of days that you serve in the reserves. And for those of you that have, paid attention to any of the reserve recruiting programs, the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, you have to fulfill that amount of days to satisfy that annual requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So rough estimate, it essentially works out to be a month and a half, if you went Monday through Friday in number of days equivalent. So yeah,
I think it ends up, I think it's 52 mutas. I think is a good year. And I think it's 52. And like once you fulfill that 52 mutas, then you technically have a good year or whatever. And like you're 2 weeks out of the summer, what you were talking about, your 2 weeks out of the summer is like sometimes you'll go to a school instead of going to AT, which is your annual training. And usually annual training is where you get the most training in the National Guard is during that 2 weeks. Pretty much everything that you do during the year is just administrative stuff.
Yeah, so I joined up a little bit earlier, and what I did for the 2 weeks AT, given the time frame for it, it was pre-mobility or pre-mobilization exercises. Going, getting all your shots, getting all your records and everything, getting ready to go, because my reserve unit at the time was getting ready to deploy.
Yeah. Oh, and that's also a time whenever you complete your medal tasks, your METL, your medal tasks that you have to complete throughout the year. Because every unit has like these tasks that they have to complete for every soldier throughout a year or whatever. And a lot of times during your AT is whenever you do those medal tasks for your on a unit level. But like I'd said, if you go to a school, that counts as your active duty time. That counts as your 2 weeks out of the summer.
So, where all have you been stationed?
Fort Knox, Kentucky, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then like National Guard units work a little bit different. National Guard units are like wherever you're at in the state, like you have armories to go to. So like I've been all over the state of North Carolina. You're talking about actual duty stations, not where I've been overseas, right?
Where have I see again technical terminology? Where have you lived because of your affiliation with the armed forces?
Well, technically, I've lived in Germany. I've lived in the United States. I've lived in Afghanistan. I've lived in Iraq, and I've lived in Kuwait. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've spent considerable time outside the country.
Yeah.
Right. So those of us, like, if you said to me, Kent, where have you been? I would name a couple countries in Europe and Mexico. And if you were to add all that time up in my civilian, how many nights have you spent outside the U.S.? 21, maybe?
21 nights?
Yeah. Maybe. A trip to Europe, a trip to Mexico, another trip to Europe. You see what I'm saying? Like, in total, maybe 30, let's call it. Well, fucking Canada, okay, so we'll throw Canada, and we'll give me 40 nights outside the country, if we're being, like, generous. How many nights have you spent outside of the U.S.?
More than... Oh, fuck. It's been more than 15 months. 16, 17, 18, 19.
Which in some ways illustrates my point, being that you and I are about the same age, right?
No, you're significantly older than me. You're old as shit.
Otherwise, like
y'all hold on, y'all can both eat shit.
Right? Yeah, TJ is old as fuck. Like, we don't even have to talk about TJ. We'll get to TJ in a minute. TJ, were you North or South, or were you Confederate or Indian or?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, okay. Just checking.
He rode a dinosaur, and Jesus was his platoon sergeant.
Right, absolutely.
Roster number 0003.
Right. My point being, right, is that if you would have followed typical middle America median income livelihood, you may have spent a fraction of that time outside the country.
Probably, yeah.
Most people yours and my age of similar economic upbringing and whatever, like our parents didn't have a villa in Switzerland or some shit that we went to every other month. Like, probably didn't spend a fraction of that time out of the country. So, and TJ gets to fucking like write all the answers to these questions down because he knows they're all
pencil check.
Right.
You go pencil check and it's fucking taped to your finger. You're like, don't be suspicious.
What are you talking? What are you talking about?
How much do you feel the military has helped or hurt your financial earning potential by this point in your life?
I think that being in the military has helped me get jobs, honestly, because it does look good on a resume.
Okay.
You know, especially like being in leadership positions and stuff like that. You know, like whenever you apply for a job as like a manager of something, they're like, "Do you have manager experience?" And you're like, "Yeah, I managed 200 and something soldiers or whatever." So it's like, oh, you know, so like that kind of looks good on a resume and stuff like that.
So you don't feel as though the time that you spent in the military, you could have been being paid better in civilian life doing something else?
Well, I tried the whole porn star thing, but you know, that didn't pay out the way I thought it would. So, and being a stripper, they usually paid me to put clothes back on.
Same.
So.
Okay, fair enough. Of all the things that you invested your time in the military, what are you most proud of? By the way, pencil check on me, motherfucker. I ain't got no notes or nothing either. I'm doing this all a cappella.
Yeah, no, I think real quick, this deserves a quick for any new people that might be joining us for the first time on our broadcast. We don't do show notes. You will prepare more for your driver's ed test.
Yeah, exactly.
One.
These are the conversations I've been having with the young guy that I'm trying to help. He is leaving in 5 days. Like, he already signed a paper. He's out of here. 5 days from now, he's out. Meanwhile, this is all the stuff that we've been talking about. And by the way, these gentlemen and I almost did this podcast over several hours the other night, and I might have snored through some of it because I was drinking bourbon like a motherfucker.
I'll drink to that.
But I'll tell you right now, like, this is just stuff that I wonder as a civilian dude about what you guys go through. So, Cam, your earning potential, you don't feel like was hurt by the military?
No.
Okay.
Probably not.
Awesome. All right, man. So I'm going to transition to TJ real quick, and we're going to hit him with those same things, and we'll ask you guys a couple others.
You asked another question, though.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you want to wait on that one until TJ answers his stuff? It was what was the most significant thing? I need time to think about it, but so like
I did want to wait. Good call, because that's like the crescendoing. Like, what are you most proud of? Absolutely. So TJ, 10,000-foot view, your career, military, contractor life, all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I joined the military right out of high school. So literally 2 days after I graduated, I was in basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. 17 years old. I turned 18 in basic training, and this was in 2002. In total, I spent about 7 years in uniform. So there was a year in the reserves. Then I went active duty, and then I did another year in the reserves on the way out. And I was military intelligence for the duration of my career. I actually went in, just to go on a slight tangent, I went in to be a helicopter pilot and ended up joining ultimately to be an MP, military police officer, and then fell into military intelligence. I realized, Cam, the fun police, right? Wait, no. So I went and did military.
I've had some run-ins.
Right, I'm sure. We know. We heard your intro. We know.
Yeah.
We love you, buddy.
Love.
So, did about 7 years in uniform, and took a short hiatus on while I was out of the military. So left the military and became a contractor, still doing intelligence operations, working at various levels of government in that capacity. Worked at the Pentagon, worked in training and doctrine command, so higher level commands in the military. Worked with a lot of special operations teams and stuff. And yeah, In total, did about 12 and a half years of service in one capacity or another, which ultimately equaled up to, I've actually done this math before. I used to have it down to the month, but when I do the calculation, it's just shy of 5 years in a foreign country.
So 5 years of your life spent outside of the U.S.
In either Iraq or Afghanistan specifically. Yep, that's two deployments with the U.S. military to Iraq and 5 deployments to Afghanistan.
It occurs to me how bad of a friend I might be, because you and I have had this conversation 40 times if we've had it once. And that math never struck me as deeply as it just struck me.
Hmm? Yeah,
not being silly. I know I can be silly a lot, but maybe it's the fact that there's a kid that's about ready to leave my fucking house with a bag over his shoulder or whatever. But bro, you're fucking two. Like, are you 2 years older than me?
I'm 37.
Yeah. Okay. So you're 2 3/4 of a year older than me, and you have literally spent 5 whole years of your life outside this country.
Yes.
Fuck.
Yep.
God.
Yeah. Practically all of my 20s. First time my boots hit sand, I was 19, and I resigned from that life and took on my professional career that I do now at the age of 30.
Damn, dude. It's just seriously straight up. It never hit me like that before. Had you ever broken out that math for me? You see, if you give me math in chunks, it doesn't work so much as you give me the big picture. It helps. But God damn, dude.
Yeah, it's just shy of 5 years. It's 50 some odd months to get all together.
Yeah, that's Jesus fuck. That's enough. Like, God Almighty, that's a lot of time. So Cam, forgive me. I'm gonna diverge a little bit. I'm gonna ask him something I didn't ask you, because I kind of already know the answer. TJ, you were married and a dad for a good portion of that, were you not?
Yes. Yeah, actually married twice, to be specific. So a lot of people, you guys hear, if you listen to the podcast before, you hear me talk about my wife. In reality, this is my second wife, and this probably goes into some of the future conversation we're going to have tonight, because like typical young, dumb privates, I married young. Married the first arguably steady girlfriend that I had in my adult life. And it lasted all of 8 months, and that shit went crazy. And very shortly after that ended, I met my current wife, and we've been married, going on 15 years now.
Yeah, I mean, but that really puts into perspective the amount of time that I feel like I'm spending away from my young son as I bust my ass and run a business and teach and do corporate work and all that, and yet I see him at least multiple times every day.
Right. Yeah. I left so my son wasn't born until I was out of the military. My wife and I were absolutely clear that we did not want to have a child while I was still in uniform. And we ended up getting pregnant a couple of months before I actually got the job offer for my first contracting gig. And I left for my first deployment as a contractor when he was 3 months old. He was 6 months old. I came back a year later and he was 18 months old.
Yeah, that's
and then wash, rinse, repeat until he was about 5. No, he was 6, because I actually resigned when we were pregnant with our daughter. So yeah. and they're 6 years apart. So he was.
I'm sorry. I'm doing my best not to say names, which I won't do. But I keep wanting to. He is such a good young man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I attribute that to being raised by his mama.
I would too.
Yeah. Here's to that.
Yeah. So would Kent. He knows her, so it's okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking about my best buddy here on a very personal level at this moment. Knowing her and knowing them, and trying to like connect the dots on the amount of difficulty and struggle it must have put on her and the family.
Yeah.
That's rough. And no matter what, I would venture to say, TJ, at this moment in your life, you're making about as much money as you were as a contractor.
Just shy of it, actually,
right.
But not quite. I mean, nothing says good money like contractor deployed money, but especially with somebody who at the time didn't have his degree, right? I was in the it took me 10 years to get my bachelor's, right? So that should put things into perspective.
It took me five. It took me 5 to get my associates because I was like bouncing.
Yeah,
back and forth
yeah.
too.
So we're on the same wavelength there, Cam.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, for someone without a college education, without any like special like STEM skills, which are typically the higher paying jobs in career fields in the country, I now currently work in technology. But yeah, I mean, for not that, and I'm pulling down. Let's see, at the time. Oh, easily high 6 figures. Easily. While deployed, mind you. Keep in mind, so the way contractor pay works, you get a base salary, say it's $90,000 a year as a base salary. Then when you deploy, that increases substantially. You're clearing 150 plus at that level easily.
Right.
While deployed. So it's not permanent, but if you break down what the paychecks were, if that were to continue throughout the year, it would be about 100, 160, 180, somewhere around there, which is actually kind of low by the time I became a contractor.
So something to like kind of bounce off of with that is when I was a contractor, you could make up to 80,000 before you started getting taxed on it. So they would try to like make the deployment super, super short. Like, and now they're like year contracts. Like that's like the standard is you do a 1-year contract. But like, then it was like, you would do like a 6-month contract because then that would put you right at that cap of 80,000. And then you would come home for 6 months and then you would go back for 6 months and then you would come home for 6 months and go back for 6 months. That's how it's supposed to work. Obviously,
it worked a couple. Yeah, it worked a couple of different ways. When I was in what we call the contractor tuxedo, so 5'11" pants and a polo shirt. The expatriate, what Cam's referring to is the expatriate status or expat, and it's a filing that you actually have to do with the IRS for them to turn off your tax, your income tax, essentially up to that point. I actually never turned that off. I continued to get taxed throughout all of my deployments, regardless of how long they were, because I had heard horror stories about guys. Because you have to turn that back on. At like it's an honor system. Like you have it. Okay, I've made my 90 grand or 80 grand or whatever the cutoff was. You have to turn that back on. So I was seeing these guys come in. I'm a new guy contractor. All my colleagues are coming back as we're rotating in and out, and they're like, "Yeah, man, I submitted the paperwork, but typical government paperwork trail, it got lost, and I ended up owing Uncle Sam like 45 G's because they didn't take out income tax."
I owe the government like $7,000 right now because they did not take away some money. I still owe them like $7 grand.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when the government messes up, it's your problem.
Yeah.
So that was that, and my last deployment was 2015, and I haven't looked back.
Right, but to illustrate another point I'm going to make with you, and this is where I'm going to go next. You're doing financially almost that well, pretty close to it.
Oh yeah, we're very comfortable. I would also say that a lot of it, and I'm going to jump ahead to one of the questions that you asked Cam, was, do I feel that this prepared me, or my experiences in the military prepared me to either A, handle the financial situation that I'm currently in, or B, did it limit me from the earning potential that I have currently? I will say yes to both.
Yeah.
And that's only because as I've gotten older and I've started actually paying attention more to finances and just in general, investing in stock markets and getting more active and having my money work for me, things like that. I feel like had I had that same financial education at, say, high school age, then in my 20s, I could easily argue that I would have been making more money in my 20s if I'd not joined the military. But that's hindsight being 2020, right? I will say that being in the military and really not making a whole lot of money and learning how to live off the minimum, to be a minimalist type person, like we all see, like extreme cheapskates or whatever you see on TV. You make that money and then you get deployed, you make that money, but there's nothing to spend it on. So I would say that it doesn't necessarily prepare you on how to handle wealth. It just prepares you for not making stupid, investments into liabilities versus assets. For the people that pay attention, it's interesting, and this is one of the advice. I guess this brings us to our first bit of advice. For someone that's looking to join the military, the Army offers, or the military in general, offers a lot of education. There's a lot of free education within the military. There's I can't remember all the acronyms, forgive me. But essentially, the average age of a United States military service member is 19, 20 years old. Not a whole lot of financial intelligence or education that goes along with that.
Or intelligence in general.
Yeah, that too. So there are courses and classes that you can take. I mean, there's people that have never balanced a checkbook. I mean, hell, if you are going into the U.S. military in basic training, be prepared to meet people that don't know how to button a shirt or tie their shoes.
Yep, that's a thing.
That is absolutely a thing, right? So let's keep that into perspective here. With that being said, there's a lot that can be taught there, and I would advise anybody that's looking to join the military to take advantage of those courses and learn about investing, learn about saving for retirement, learning how to balance and maintain a budget that you keep internally. While you're only making, as a private, anywhere from $20,000 to $35,000, $40,000 a year, depending, right? You can really stretch that far. You can actually live off that pretty well if you're smart. I think it was General Petraeus's wife that said it, but she said you could always tell when a unit comes home from a deployment because for a month there's a parade of brand new sports cars and big lifted trucks, and no kidding, 90 days later there's a parade of tow trucks taking them away.
Yeah.
Right?
That's accurate.
So what you're saying is good investment, tow truck company, North Carolina, Fort Bragg area.
Literally any military installation.
That'll do it. Whenever you were talking about investing money, I was like, ooh, somebody's got a Robinhood account.
No, that's not what we're talking.
No, that's not the same.
DJ and I are talking about like I don't know about boats.
I was kidding.
Boats and hose. I don't know if it's quite boats and hose, but certainly prestige worldwide status. Like we're looking at
sure.
like I don't know.
I'm gonna start my own paintball. You know what? Because you're a military veteran, like just start a gun company. Like that's what they all do. They're like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna start this gun company. I'm gonna buy this gun shop or whatever, and then people are gonna come to my classes because I was a veteran, and that's true.
Mm-hmm. Taking advantage of the current popular marketing economy.
Yeah, that's real common. I've definitely seen where like people were like, this guy was in the Army, so he's gonna start his own like training company. And then you go to his training company and you're like, all right, cool. Well, that was shit what you just taught us. So really appreciate you wasting my fucking time. I was asked to evaluate a course. I'm not going to say the name. I was asked to evaluate a course for somebody. And I went to the course and I was like, you don't want me to do a write-up on this, bud? And he was like, why not? And I was like, because you kept talking about this is the way that it works in combat, and like you don't know what that's like. So maybe in Call of Duty that's what it's like, where you can do the 360 no scope, but you're not going to do that for real skis, bud.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time in the dirt in combat, so just throw that out there, or behind walls, yeah. Cover and concealment, those things are that's what really happens. We're gonna hunker down and call for fire.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what else you got, Kent?
Oh, I'm just reading Landon's comments.
Your next question was something significant.
Yeah.
I forgot it. I've been drinking.
No, it's all good. So through all that time, all those nights out of country, all the sacrifice, all that, what's your what are you most proud of? Accomplishment, whatever. What's the thing that you're like, fuck yeah, I did that? Whoever wants to hit
it. Cam's been thinking about this too the whole time I was on my soapbox.
Yeah, I know. I was listening to your soapbox instead of thinking about it.
No, it's okay.
I would say probably so. Like, and this is gonna sound super duper cheesy, but like to me, it was a big deal. So like, I was sort of known like as whenever I was an E5, back whenever I was a sergeant, I was sort of notorious for being that guy who, like, if you fucked up, I would chew your fucking head off immediately. I was the pit bull, which is what you're supposed to be as an E5. If a private or a specialist or something fucked up, I was on their ass. And then I sort of took like a look at what I was doing, and I realized that I was making myself unapproachable. And I realized that is not the person I wanted to be as a leader. I wanted to be the person that if people had a question, if they had something that they weren't sure about or whatever, that they would come to me and ask me for help. And like, that's part of the leadership triangle is experience. And I have that. I have experience. I've done stuff. So I have the base of the leadership triangle. And the last thing that I did whenever I was with the 1452nd Transportation Company was they were like, hey, we didn't tell you guys this, but this is the last time that Staff Sergeant Hayes is going to be here. He's going on to, another unit or whatever. And they asked me to speak. And whenever I did, this soldier who I was really hard on, like I was an asshole to this soldier, but it was because I knew that he was better than he was putting out, and I wanted him to be better. I wanted him to be better than me. I wanted him to be better than he was putting out. And, so I before I left, they asked me to give a little speech or whatever. So I gave some little, like I'll sit, I'm sure I'll see you guys around kind of thing and whatever. And then I had, told them, you guys have seen me walk around with this clipboard, and I showed them the clipboard that I'd been carrying around the whole time. And I flipped open the clipboard. Man, you got people bringing you fucking drinks? Where do I get one of those? So
membership has privileges.
Yeah. So I take this clipboard and I flip open, and I was like, you guys know I carry this clipboard around everywhere I go. And, people started nodding their head and shit like that. And I flipped the papers back, and under the papers I had, be the kind of leader that you would follow. And that's what I had written on the back of my clipboard. And I gave that to that soldier, and that was the last thing that I did in that unit was I was like, hey, here's this. And he messaged me way later, and he was like, I get it. Like, I understand why you were so hard on me now and stuff like that. And he uses that clipboard now that he's a sergeant and stuff like that. And that was, I think the most significant thing that I've done, or at least I hope that the most significant thing I've done in the military has been help people. Because like that's kind of, I'm not going to say that's why I joined, because it's not. I joined because I wanted to shoot bad guys in the face. But since I've grown up, my job is not to shoot bad guys in the face. My job is to make sure that soldiers come home. Like that's my position as an instructor, is to make sure that these soldiers are trained up well enough. Even if I have to be a dickhead to do it, these soldiers are trained up well enough to where they get to come home to their family. And that's important to me. That's really important to me. It didn't used to be. Like I said, whenever I first joined, it was I wanted to shoot bad guys in the face. And then, the more that I've progressed and grown and stuff like that, I realized that my job is not to shoot bad guys in the face. My job is to make sure that the people that are below me come home safe. So I need to make sure that they are trained properly, that they are equipped properly. And also, like your job as a section leader, a squad leader, a platoon sergeant, whatever level you're on as an NCO, a non-commissioned officer, is to keep your people safe. And that's why I'm kind of in this weird position I'm in right now, I have this like internal conflict where I feel like my job is always to help a soldier's career, never hurt their career. Always help their career, never hurt their career. And I've got some very unique situations going on where I'm trying really hard to help these soldiers progress and be better, but they don't like me in the position that I'm in. They don't like me being their boss because I took somebody else's job. So that's a story for another time. But anyway, I rolled on a lot longer with this than I should have. TJ, go ahead.
No, man, it's okay because I think your experience, what you're sharing is not, at least it should not be lost on anybody that actually cares to listen. And if you have a vested interest, and this is a life choice that you, or a decision in your life that you want to make, like this is a very important realization. You know, we all see the marketing gimmicks and the cool videos and commercials of people jumping out of airplanes in the dark, in the dead of night, to go sneak in and kick some dude's door in and go rain hate from Uncle Sam, right? And it goes a lot deeper than that. So that's important. I really wish people would think more like that. At least look more big picture and where, like, look at where your time in the military is going rather than where you hope it to be just today, right? Where are you going to be tomorrow? So it's
funny,
important.
It's funny that you're talking about like where it started versus like where it is today. And, I was talking about like my transition of like, why am I here kind of thing for the military. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but every time we've done a podcast, I've had a gun in the background that was relevant to whatever we were discussing. And the rifle that I have in the background right now is actually my dad's. It's a M16A4 variant. Like it's like a clone, It's not quite clone correct. It's not like a Colt lower or anything like that. But
it's period correct.
Yeah, when I went through basic training and AIT, we had M16A2s, which
as did I.
Which had an affixed carry handle and nothing fancy. When I went through AIT, we had M16A4s, which is the same gun, 20-inch barrel, 5.56, with a A2 style stock and everything. But it had a carry handle that was detachable, and you could mount optics or whatever for the flat top receiver. Obviously, we didn't because we still shot iron sights back then. But that was my my gun for tonight's show. I was like, hey, this is relevant because this is like whenever me and TJ first joined the Army, this is the shit we were issued whenever we first joined.
Yeah, I remember getting to my first unit. And they put an aim point. What was it? The Pro Comp M4 or the Comp M4, whatever it was.
Aim point Comp M4 M68 red dot CCO.
Yeah, good God, and it bolted to that fixed carry handle, by the way.
Oh yeah, it sticks out on this fucking weird. Yeah, I know. What you mean.
Height over bore's a bitch with that thing. But anyway,
3.7 inches height over bore. You get a good chin weld on that.
Yeah. On the plus side, it worked great in a pro mask.
Yeah.
So most significant thing. Oh wow. I really.
What are you most proud of, Bob?
No. So what I'm most proud of, I can't say. I mean, given the nature of my position, my role, my job in the military, and even as a contractor, I didn't get a chance to do the whole guts and glory approach that a lot of my brothers and sisters got to experience. However, I will say the most proud thing that I have is the same reason why people say, why did you go over 5 or 7 times? Right. I'm most proud of the people that I served with, honestly. That was why I kept going back. It's, we all see it in the news and I think it's a topic worth discussing, maybe not in this episode, but maybe a certain future one coming up in nearer on the calendar. But everybody sees everything that's going on, the complete Charlie Foxtrot that's going on with Afghanistan.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I didn't go over there for them. I didn't go over there for Iraq, or I didn't go over there for Afghanistan. And I hate to say it, I have a hard time saying that everything that I did over there was for even America. We fall. We listen to the talking heads and the chest thumping and for freedom in America, and they took our jobs and shit.
Patriotism and whatnot.
Yeah, patriotism and whatnot. Thank you, Cam. But no, it's. I think it's in some ways it's bigger than that, and that was the people that were still serving that cause. The friends and colleagues that I made, that I worked with over there, some of the best people that this country has to offer. And I consider myself both honored and privileged to have gotten a chance and an opportunity to serve beside them.
All right, fair enough. So now, right off the rip, for the negative, what's the worst experience you had that you're willing to discuss? Feel free to tell me, right? Fuck off, and we'll hammer right past this like I never asked.
That's a tough one, man.
Worst experience for the Army, not as a contractor, because I had some pretty shitty shit happen as a contractor. Worst experience for the Army was we were so hand-tied with like ROE and like what we were allowed to do and what we weren't allowed to do, that I literally had to watch someone burn alive. That's pretty shitty. Yeah. So we weren't allowed to help. So that was pretty shitty.
Yeah, I won't give you the absolute worst, but I'll give you something pretty close. That was definitely eye-opening, and I would say probably the first well, we call it a vibe check in some ways, but I didn't actually vibe check my plates, but it certainly brought into perspective the limitations of my own mortality. Was so it wasn't my first deployment, it was my second. So I was in the Army, 15-month deployment. We were in Iraq, in Baghdad, and during this period of time, it was the height of sectarian violence that was breaking out in the country. So for those that might be a little rusty on their history of the Iraq War, Iraq, and truth be told, a vast majority of the Muslim population in the world has been really kind of separated into two different sects, the Sunnis and the Shia. And under Saddam's rule, he did a very good job keeping that sectarian violence. Very much akin to Protestants and Catholics, right? Same religion, but there is a deviation in their belief over who the third caliphate was. So everyone thinks it should be his, Muhammad's blood relative. The other said it was his adopted relative, or whatever the case might be, his adopted son. And that's really what causes the rift. So, Saddam did a great job actually keeping the sectarian violence in check, because he was a dictator. He ruled with an iron fist and under a tyrannical regime. When we first really started standing up the Iraq War, or started standing up the Iraq government that we were putting in place, the sectarian violence came to a head, and you had a lot of torturing, a lot of kidnapping, a lot of, like, you would hear about a car bomb going off in a market, and there was not a U.S. or coalition military unit anywhere to be seen. So this was purely an attack on fellow civilian members of the population. But during certain patrols, we came across some of these torture chambers where you would come into a room filled with, people that had been hung and burned alive. Clear evidence of them being tortured with broken glass. Specifically, the cutting of the bottom of the feet while suspended, which is one of the most painful places to receive an open wound like that. But yeah, at 19, 20 years old, and you're walking into a room with that's a smell you'll never forget.
Yeah. thank you both for answering that question. For the record, for those playing the home game, this ain't video game shit. Many of the men and women who I know and consider dear friends and family and people whom I love, and I love Cameron and I love Timothy. I'll even use his fucking full name, like brothers. These guys have seen these things and dealt with them in person. So before you go signing up for some stuff like that, you might want to consider where your life might take you.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's what I hope that anybody that would listen to this episode of the podcast and any future podcasts, Kent and I have framed this platform and the delivery model around this podcast to being responsible self-defenders. We say that because in our own respects and rights, we have seen exactly how ugly the world can be.
Yep.
So, I typically, and if you watch any of the other episodes, and Kent and even Cam can attest to this, this is not really a topic that we broach quite often. But suffice it to say, when I tell you that there are bigger things to worry about in this world other than what fucking pronoun you go by, I mean it.
Yep. Absolutely. So, nice little segue, and I didn't mean to trash this or make it all about the bad towards the end, but some things have transpired in recent history that are worth mentioning. One being September 11th, we just had the anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
In my family, September 11th means some different things. It seems like nobody has a good reason to celebrate September. I've never met a person who's like, oh, we got married on September 11th. Sophie and I got like the 13th, so we're close. But I don't know anybody who has any great anniversaries on the 11th. I'm sure there is somebody. It's a pretty negative thing all around in my family, save for my birthday.
Well, even if there are positive things that are associated with that date for some people, they're overshadowed by the travesties that we've all experienced collectively as a people.
Yeah. So that's a tough one, but long story short, you guys both have been to Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
You've both seen what we accomplished or didn't accomplish there, depending on your point of view. How do you feel about the way we left the country?
Oh.
Go, yeah, right. I know.
Shit.
I know.
So I have this. So I was recently talking to somebody about the first time I stepped foot in Afghanistan, which was, like 2009-ish. And then the last time that I was in Afghanistan was just 2018. So almost a decade apart. And then, man, I spent so much time in that country, and I've been to so many different parts of that country. And I've got so many friends that have died in that country. And then, for us to just go out the way we did, I'm not happy about it. But people who are smarter than me or better than me or make more money than me or whatever are the ones who make
maybe the third one. I won't give them the other two.
Yeah, they make those decisions, not me. I have friends right now that are over there.
Yep.
And they're trying to pick up the pieces of what a colossal clusterfuck that this has caused.
Yep.
I'm in North Carolina. I've got the 82nd Airborne. I've got 1st and 3rd Special Forces Group, but then we've also got, Air Force units and stuff like that in here. We've got everything in North Carolina. So I have friends that are over there right now.
Same. And family too.
Yeah, and they're just it shouldn't have gone down that way. It should not have, but it did.
Yeah, I'm of the same mindset, man. I can't say honestly. This might shock some of you, but there is a part of me that agrees with at least one thing that Biden said. We've sacrificed enough American treasure and blood in that country. It was time for them to stand on their own. I could have told you from the word go that it was going to last all of 5 minutes. However, the way that, America's pull-up game ain't that strong.
Non-existent.
Yep. So the fact that there are still American colleagues, sympathizers, I can't say definitively whether or not there are still U.S. citizens that aren't trapped over there. However, we put, like, there are a lot of people, like the interpreters, the local national contractors that put their entire family in jeopardy. Like, Cam and I have sat here, we're sharing our experiences with the military and the mortal danger that we put ourselves in, and that those that serve to the left or right of us were equally in. Imagine if you joining the military meant that if you died or you were captured or somebody found out your name, that they would come back to your home and obliterate your entire family tree at the root.
Yeah.
Like, this is the sacrifice that some of those people are making.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not meant to diminish what we're doing over there, what we in uniform have done. But the fact that we left it, you cannot tell me that this was not known about the day that Biden raised his hand and swore his oath of office, that this was going to happen. And they couldn't have made some level of preparation to get way more people than what they did out of that country before that happened.
So one of the courses that I used to teach for the Army, I used to teach counterterrorism. So that meant, which got me an interesting phone call with a Department of Homeland Security agent years ago, but we don't need to talk about that. So I was a counterterrorism instructor for a little while there. So I used to have to look at all the ISIS and ISIL and Taliban propaganda videos and all the videos of executions and stuff like that. Like, I used to have to watch these videos and decide which ones were acceptable to show to groups of soldiers to get the point across, but not so much that it, completely
scarred them for life.
Yeah. But I had to watch all the goddamn videos. But but I still get these videos. Like, people still send me these videos of what's going on in the country right now and stuff like that, because they think I'm still a counterterrorism instructor, which I'm not. But I'm okay with it, because it's still good information to have. I watched a video the other day. There was about 20 interpreters, which meant that they had DOD IDs. They helped us while we were there get executed one at a time. They were all put on their knees in a row and shot in the back of the head. And then, like, once one was shot in the back of the head, and the next one knew it was coming, but there wasn't shit he could do about it. And then they would shoot him in the back of the head. And there'd be like a 3 to 5 second pause, because you do the kicking chicken whenever you shoot somebody in the head. A lot of times people think that whenever people die, they're just dead, but your nerves are still kicking off and stuff like that. You're still firing off before you actually are completely dead. And they go down to the next guy in line, shoot him in the back of the head. They go to the next guy in line, shoot him in the back of the head. They go to the next guy. And there's like a 3 to 5 second pause between each. And then after everybody's dead, everybody just kind of backs away from the bodies and just starts riddling the bodies with bullets. And I was like, man, those guys helped us. And now they're just getting executed in the streets. But the part that I didn't see that I know is happening is not only are those guys getting executed, their whole family is getting executed. Their little kids. Like, we have these morals where we think that, a 9-year-old girl won't get executed because, she's a 9-year-old girl. But over there, they don't look at it the same way. She was the daughter of a traitor of the country, and they will execute her in the street, probably after they rape her. And that's just the way it is there.
Oh, but it's okay. We're totally fine starting riots over which bathrooms we can use. Yeah, man. I mean, look, here's the thing, and this is what kind of goes into one of the other aspects of if you're considering joining. Welcome to adulthood, right? And that's one of the challenges of getting these young men and women to join the military, right? You want to prepare them as best you can. There's nothing in the world that can prepare you for that until you see it. And everyone wants to put on their machismo hat, man or woman, doesn't matter. You want to put on your Billy Badass hat and say, "Oh, I can handle this." I want you to think of everything that you can possibly perceive as being some of the most heinous stuff that you feel like you would experience in your world, in your life, in your hometown USA, wherever that might be. And that's not even close. Won't even scratch the surface of some of the evil that exists out there.
I don't want this podcast to be a giant don't fucking join the army because of these negative experiences or whatever. What I will say is join the army because you feel in your heart or your soul or whatever you believe in that is wrong and you want to alleviate the world of that evil. That's really honestly and truly whenever I looked at myself from the 1,000-foot view, I think is the way that Kent worded it, was I've always had this thing for, Marvel superheroes and DC superheroes. We're not going to argue about which one's better because we all know that DC's
it's
better.
Marvel.
And I've always had this thing for superheroes and shit like that. And I've always been like, there's the good guys and there's the bad guys and there's no gray area. It's like, there's the Lex Luthor and there's the Superman, like there's the Nucci's and there's the Punisher. Well, hold on a minute. The Punisher's not a superhero. He's not even super. He's a hero. But he's not a hero because he smokes and drinks and kills people. So he's an anti-hero. So that's why I've sort of always latched onto that kind of thing or whatever, is that the Punisher has always been kind of one of my faves, has been because he's not the, crystal clear, he's the good guy kind of thing, because he does bad shit or whatever, or bad depending on what your moral compass points towards. I've always thought, there are good guys and there are bad guys. And if you have the ability to help, you should help, which I said earlier on in the podcast. And that transfers over to a lot of different things. And I just feel I guess I still feel like it. As a soldier in the United States Army, I can go to other places and help those other countries where they have, tyrannical rule, or they have terrorist cells within their country, or they have, fucking help me, Tej, I've been drinking. They have bad shit in these countries.
Wherever there is darkness, I'll be there.
Yeah, this whole ass world is Gotham, and you're Batman.
Well, and let's put a little bit of perspective on this because, admittedly, we went down a path that got pretty dark pretty quick, right?
Yeah, that's why I don't want it to end that way.
Well, no, and it won't, because we need to also put things into perspective, because we have to take into account that there are going to be people that might fall upon this podcast that, maybe can't join the military, right? Medical issues, other proclivities, things that for whatever reason, despite you wanting to serve, you cannot, or you're not acceptable for whatever reason, typically physical limiting factors are the case, or medical conditions are generally the case. You can still serve. EMT, firefighter, police officer, things like that. All that negative, dark stuff, those are still things that you could expect to experience, even as an ER nurse. My mom, when she was a young adult, before I was a twinkle in her eye, worked in an ER. She told me all sorts of horrible stuff that she'd see in an ER, right? There's a lot of evil in the world. You can't use that as an excuse to not continue this is going to sound really cliche as well, but to not continue your path of righteousness and justice, right? If you want to go help a car crash victim, we talk on this podcast a lot that even if you're not going to carry a gun, you should carry medical. There's a higher probability of you reacting and responding to a vehicle accident then you are going to need to draw a firearm, God willing, right? You should expect to see some pretty dark and gross things responding to an automobile accident, right? Working in that ER, but that's it's a important level set to reality that everyone joining needs to understand. To Kent's point, it's not a video game. This is real life, and it has real consequences. But it's not without its rewards as well. Is that about cover it, Cam? That kind of bring us back on track?
I think so.
Kent?
Yeah. So last question. And I know this one might take a while, which is why it's the last question. What would y'all have done differently? Knowing what you know now, what different steps would you have taken? What career path things would you have done differently with the military? What schools would you have gone to that you didn't? All that.
Oh. All right. So one of the things that needs to be discussed, at least for the National Guard, is how schools get allocated. You only get a certain amount of seats in schools per year. Your state only gets a certain amount of seats for schools a year. So the Army definitely pushes this concept of your career is what you make it. So if your career is garbage, it's because you made it garbage. At least that's the way the Army likes to push it to you. If your career is phenomenal, it's because you did the thing. You did the thing, whatever that thing is. Really what that means is if the Army asks you to do something, you do it. And then you have a good career because you're a yes man. If the Army, if you want to do something and you ask for it and then you don't get it, you might get a little bit jaded, and then that kind of affects your career later and stuff like that. So, like for me, I had the opportunity to go to sniper school back in 2012, I think it was. And the state of North Carolina at the time only got 2 seats for sniper school a year. And that was whenever the government shutdown happened. So I ended up losing my sniper school seat back then. And like knowing what I knew even then was I was like, what are the odds that I'll ever get another sniper school seat for the rest of my career? So whenever another opportunity was presented to me, I jumped at it. Where they were like, hey, do you want to be an instructor? And I was like, yep. Because I knew that the odds of me sitting there and waiting for another sniper school slot was very slim. Very, very, very slim. And then like, so, you know, like they say your career is what you make it. What that really means is if the Army offers you something, don't say no to it is kind of the thing. And I mean, I was offered air assault school. I went to air assault school. I ended up getting a day 0 drop. And that was a big gut check for me because I'm really into fitness and, you know, like being physically fit, and which I just said fitness, whatever. And you know, like I always think in my head, you know, as long as I'm better than whatever percentage of their fail rate is, then I'm good. So like if the Army has a school that has a 50% pass rate, as long as I'm better than half of the people here, then I'm fucking good to go. And then I went to this school and 60% of the class got dropped on day 0. I was part of that 60%. I was like, holy shit, I am not as good as I thought I was. Turned out there was an issue and something went wrong with the course, and they asked me to come back immediately, but I ended up not going back because I would have had to re-enlist to do that, and whatever. That ended up, you know, kind of fucking up. So it's a weird example, but you know, like that kind of is the Army. Is like they'll offer you a job, they'll offer you a position, and it's kind of like you know, you have to take it because if you don't, you might not be offered anything after that ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that sounds a lot like corporate America.
No, there's a lot of parallels actually.
Honestly,
yeah. I mean, think about it. Yeah, if you come to, and that's one of the things that always bothered me about some of the advice that people will give, especially veterans, will give to other people joining the military, you'll kind of get a mixed bag. You'll get don't volunteer for shit, and then you'll get volunteer for literally everything that comes your way. I would say I'm probably in both camps because you should volunteer for the things that make sense, right? If it's a school, to Cam's point, if you get an opportunity to volunteer to go to a school, do it. If you get an opportunity to volunteer to go cut grass with scissors, maybe pass on that one, right?
or try to.
Yeah, and the best parallel that I can draw with, like, to get people prepared for the military. I remember this story as a child, or in my youth. I think I read it in middle school. But there's a book called The Phantom Toll Booth. And in that book, there is a character called the census taker. And it's a play on words, right? To, census, like CENSUS, but instead it's spelled SENSES. So census taker. And in order to get past the census taker, he made the characters in the book do very mundane tasks, like moving a mountain of sand from one side of the one field to another using tweezers, or emptying a well with a teaspoon, or an eyedropper. I can't remember. It was something.
This ain't Army shit. This is some goddamn Florida shit if I've ever heard.
No.
No, motherfucker, this is some Florida shit right here.
No, like, seriously, read that. But, like, if you get a chance, it's actually a cool story. Even though it's children's fantasy stories, but it like, just when you get to that section, just replace census taker with, like, first sergeant. and the characters in the story with just young, energetic, full of life privates. Right? It's the best way I can describe it. But yeah, I mean, I would have volunteered for a lot more schools had I known that. Like, that's the hindsight being 2020 thing.
I love it. All right, guys. So bonus question.
Well, hold on. I didn't get to fully answer the last question. So what I would have done differently, I wouldn't have changed anything with regard to my career path. I still would have gone intelligence. But instead of doing it for the Army, I would have done it for the United States Navy.
So you would have went Navy intel.
I would have absolutely gone Navy intel because through my experiences as a contractor, I got to work with some guys in Navy Special Warfare. SEAL teams, right? Got to work with the cool people. Well, what a lot of people don't understand is, like, Special Forces, Rangers, SEAL teams, all these other these super cool cats and kittens. They are not just like a lone squad or platoon of badasses. They are supported by a lot of people that are not, the operators, if you will. They have intel people, they have cooks, they have logisticians, they've got all these other, support roles that are required for that team to operate.
We call those support elements.
Yeah. See, thank you, Cam. Or the voice of God, depending on how you might be hearing this on the podcast audio later. But I was able, in my position as an intel guy, as a contractor, I was working alongside Navy intel people, and the level of school and training and extra stuff that they get to do, I feel like the Navy produces far more well-rounded intelligence professionals than probably any other branch of the service.
Is that because they're stuck on boats and they have to read more?
I was in Afghanistan with these guys. Like, these guys were sucking sand with the rest of us. Although I will say it was funny though, because in the Navy they get these I can't remember exactly what they call them, but they're warfare pins. So, like, if you see, like, a submariner, they've got what they call their dolphins. It's essentially the badge that they wear on the left side of their left breast pocket, slightly above it. You'll see the emblems. It's got, like, a ship with two large fish on either side of it, or whatever have you. For an air wing unit, they might have I can't remember exactly what the emblem is, but you'll get the idea. Just look up, surface warfare pin for the Navy, and you'll kind of get an idea what I'm talking about. But there was a pin that these guys were going for. I think it was their Expeditionary Warfare Pin, and this was for Navy units that were stationed in a ground combat environment. Well, I come into the office one morning, and everybody's studying. They're all getting ready for this. There's a whole list of testing that goes on to get these qualifications. And I'm like, what are you guys all studying for? I see everybody's got their nose in books, and they explain it to me. I'm like, oh, okay, well, tell me about that. You know, me being the dumb Army guy, I want to know more about my Navy brethren and sisters. And they show me the book, and I'm looking through it. Cam, it was like everything you and I learned in basic training for the Army.
So it's like, it's all the level 10 tasks.
Well, yeah, like securing an area for a forward operating base, setting your perimeter, establishing your apexes, fire superiority, and fire overlapping fields of fire. All this stuff that you learn in basic. I'm like, guys, I can help you with this.
I know this stuff, Navy people.
Yeah. So that actually got me in. That really helped break the ice because they started studying for that shortly after they got there, and there was still this whole familiarization phase with. Even though I'd been in country for like 8 months at this time, there's always this level of like, we don't care if you've been here longer than us. You're still the new guy because we just got here too. But no, that really helped break this.
Wait, that don't make college sense.
No, dude, that's the way
most things in the military don't make fucking sense, Kent.
Yeah,
I don't know if all of our stories have not portrayed this at all to you, but most things, it's like we were talking about before the podcast, eating soup with a fucking fork, man.
Because that's the way we've always done it. So cool thing. Like this is actually kind of a cool thing. Like so, with special operations units, they are such a tight knit group. Whether you're an operator or a support person, like that group, that unit of people, they are all very, very familiar with each other. They've done mock-ups and workups and getting ready for that deployment. There is a lot of camaraderie that's built within that element. And anybody that was not part of that unit from the start of that workup to get ready for that deployment is an outsider. So that's really the best way to put it. So as a matter of fact, because it was a SEAL team that left, I was already there. And the intel officer pulled me aside. His name was Joe. He's a great guy.
Sounds made up.
He pulled me aside and he was like, hey buddy, listen, you've done a lot of great work for us here these last several months. I really appreciate it. We're all getting ready to leave and stuff. I just want to let you know, with this new team coming in, there's going to be, we're going to put in as good a word for you as we possibly can, but be prepared for a certain level of butt sniffing that goes on. They're not going to know who you are. They're going to want to make sure you're on the level and that you're cool and that you're down with the sickness, so to speak. Yeah, there you go, Cam. I don't know. Yeah, Cam is wearing a hat that says "Show me that butthole." The fact that I need to meet whoever invented whoever.
So you know what fucks me up about you guys more than I could possibly imagine?
That I had a hat sitting right next to me that said "Show me that butthole."
Yeah, why? Like how military do you have to be the guy who's like, I have a hat that says exactly the thing that my friend is discussing at the moment.
And even funnier, like had he had that hat in that unit, they seen it, they probably would have been like, you will wear that every time you brief the commander. And that's I think that's one of the things that we could probably end the show on, which is by far my absolute favorite thing about the military.
Oh,
the humor. The humor.
What is
veteran
the
veteran humor. Veteran humor is the funniest thing ever.
How about
funniest thing?
I know how we could end the show so that people aren't like scared to join the military.
Go ahead.
We could say the funniest thing that we personally have ever done in the military that has been like it could be a big fuck you, or it could be just a funny thing that you've done or whatever. The funniest thing that you've done, or at least that you were a part of. Because there is a lot of shenanigans in the military.
Oh yeah. So I'll give you one. This actually, I'll give you two. I'll give you the one while I was in uniform, and that one's actually pretty simple. But we had this game that we played, which was called Mystery Beer Funnel.
Oh, I was hoping it was. I was hoping for Manchester.
No. So Mystery Beer Funnel.
You played Manchester, yeah.
It sounds familiar. I may have repressed those memories, to be honest. But
we're gonna have notes.
So Mystery Beer Funnel And when you live in the barracks, these things are 3-4 stories high. Now, modern barracks are set up a lot like dorm rooms. Not in basic training. Your life's going to suck in basic training. But when you get to your duty station as active service member, you're going to have a dorm room, right? Small kitchenette, bathroom, shower, and you'll probably have one roommate, maybe 2 or 3, but set up very much like a college dormitory. Our barracks were 3 stories high. So we made a beer funnel that was 3 stories high. So as you do, right? You got 30 feet of stairwell that's not let it go to waste. And
why would you?
Now the one thing is that it had to be a food product. That was the one rule we all set because we were in an intel unit and we're a bunch of pansies when it comes to that stuff.
Applesauce.
But
send it.
Oh yeah, it had to be a food item, but typically it started with beer. It might have migrated to a pepper sauce of some sort. It could have ended with hard liquor, and I mean like Bacardi 151 shit. Like, yeah, it was bad, but
like
it was
dark tequila.
Oh god, yeah, it got really bad. So that was like looking back on the parts of that evening or that period of time in my life that I can remember.
That evening.
Well, yeah,
like it's the fucking gala he went to or something.
Yeah, that particular event. But yeah, so that was probably that was probably one of the funniest parties that we threw in the barracks. We were getting ready to deploy again. It was just like, let's cut loose, let's have a big hurrah. And that was it. When I was a contractor, going back to working with special operations, there were other contractors on the base. Like some of the mechanics, actually all of the mechanics at that particular base were civilians. They were contractors. And they were typically not very social guys, generally pretty rough around the edge. I don't want to be diminutive to contractor or to construction workers, but think that very much blue collar mentality, right?
The guy who did a 3-story beer funnel was calling somebody else blue collar. Let's just let that sink in for a moment.
Well,
to be fair, literally all of us have done the 3-story beer funnel.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's personal to me, Cam. But so the senior chief would always say good morning to whoever, right? Well, again, there's that whole butt sniffing phase, right? If you're an outsider's an outsider. You got to prove that you're on the level. So senior chief walks by one of the mechanics and says good morning. And I guess the mechanic didn't hear him, but he didn't respond. Now, I heard about this after the fact because I'm already in the Tactical Operations Center drinking my morning coffee. Senior chief busts in, and this dude was like 5 foot, as it goes, right, Cam? 5 foot nothing, built like a brick shit house, like practically kicks the door off the hinges, just fuming. and he's like, that son of a bitch, not have the goddamn common courtesy to respond to me. I'd have bent him over and fuck him like he ain't never been fucked before. And I'm like, what the hell happened? Like, because that's the only part that I got about it at this point. So eventually the team guys are like, hey, senior, what the hell's going on? He's like, I told that guy good morning. He didn't have the courtesy to tell me good morning back. I'm going to make his day. And I'm hearing all this. I'm like, okay, noted.
Roger.
So literally from that day for like the next 2 weeks, I made it abundantly clear to be the first person to tell senior chief good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Every time I saw him, morning, senior chief. How you doing, senior chief? I
hope you were extra loud and obnoxious about it.
Oh God, yeah. I would.
He's like, he walked in, good morning, senior chief! Like, just fucking scream it as soon as he walks in.
Absolutely. And now keep in mind, this is back when I had hair and I had gone a full year without shaving my beard or my head. So, like, imagine complete haggard ginger, right? And it even got to the point whenever I would start my briefing, because I had a responsibility to brief the command every morning and afternoon, I would interrupt my salutation to the commander, look senior chief directly in his eye, and morning, senior chief. So this went on for a couple of weeks. And during one of the briefings, in front of everyone, so everyone is in the operations center getting this briefing, and I said that to senior chief. He goes, wait, time out. Stop. He's like, TJ, this has been going on for weeks. What the hell is going on? And I'm like, senior chief, no disrespect. I just don't want you to fuck me. They ended the briefing. Everyone was laughing so hard because they knew and had heard what had happened. He's like, "That's enough. We're good." From that point on, me and him, we got along so well. He was an awesome guy, man. He really was. But he was an energetic little guy.
They typically are. So
right?
That's one of yours. You said you've got two.
Well, no, that was the second one. The first one was the mystery beer funnel.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I ended up pulling out two, and one of them's actually kind of recent. So, with my age, I guess you would say, I have stopped. You're already fucking laughing, Kent. Chill. All right. So, with age, I have realized that there are certain things I can no longer eat. I can no longer drink the way that I used to. I can no longer do the things I used to without shit hurting or, my body doing weird shit. There's this game in the military that you can play that's called Manchester. And while I was at infantry school, some younger soldiers reminded me of said game. Manchester is a game where if somebody says, "Yeah, I would do this," or "I'm gonna do this," then you say Manchester. And they either have to do it within 24 hours or get the dog shit smacked out of them. Like, you get to straight up smack the motherfuck out of their mouth. And, yeah. And so
now it's coming back to me.
Yeah, so I was at infantry school in March of this year. And for the people playing the home game, it's the year 2021. So I was at infantry school as a 30-something. I'm 30-something years old. These kids that are at this school are in their, they're in their early 20s, mid-20s maybe. So they're talking about Manchester, and I'm like, I used to play this when I was a younger soldier. So I got in on it with them, so people would get Manchester and shit like that. And I was enjoying the shit. I was laughing my ass off, having a good ass time at infantry school. And then I said, I jokingly fucking said that I was going to chug a chocolate milk first thing in the morning. I'm a little lactose, gentlemen. I'm a little lactose. Okay. And I was like, oh yeah, I like to start my day by chugging a chocolate fucking milk or a chalky milk. And one of the Joes, Michael Turdo, is a buddy of mine. I still talk to him. He lives in Rhode Island. I fucking love the guy. He's great. And the dude was like, Manchester. And I was like, oh, shit. So my 30-something-year-old body started to fucking shake a little early. I crack open this fucking chalky milk. And I chugged this chalky milk at 8 a.m. with our morning breakfast. And we have to go to ranges that day. Boy, we barely got to the fucking range before I was sprinting to the Porta-Johns. And they knew what the fuck was going on. The instructors were like, what the hell is that staff sergeant doing running towards the Porta-Johns? And they were like, we don't fucking know, bro. Because, it's a bunch of E5s or whatever. They're just like, well,
he's on his own.
Yeah, so that was one of the funny things. One of the really funny things for the military for me was the whole being reintroduced to shit that I used to do when I was younger and trying to do it as an older soldier. And I'm like, being reminded of your fucking 14 years of service at that point. The other one. So when I was in Afghanistan in 2018, I was doing flight line missions where we were doing missions all night long. So I was dog ass tired. I go back to my room and I fucking, I go to get ready for bed and everything. I take off all my uniform, take off my body armor, take off my helmet, drop my M4. I'm like, I'm fucking done. I'm going to sleep. And I get a phone call on my Roshan. I had a Roshan phone. I got a phone call on my Roshan.
Real quick, Roshan is one of the local cell phone carriers in Iraq, Afghanistan, Middle East, Southeast Asian countries.
Yeah. So I had my fucking Roshan, and I get this phone call from my boss. I'm gonna call him my boss because I don't want to give up too much information. But keep in mind, I was an E5 with over a decade in service, and this guy was a butter bar lieutenant with like 6 months in service. So, yeah.
Oh, this is always a great combination.
So this guy called me and was like, Sergeant Hayes, I need you to come to this mission brief. And I was like, no. And he was like, nope. And he was like, well, you're part of the mission. You need to be here. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm not coming. I was out on the flight line all goddamn night. I'm not coming to your fucking mission brief. I already know what I need to do. I'm cool. And he was like, well, you need to fucking be here. That's an order. And I was like, ha! And I hung up on him. Ha! Roger, Lieutenant. Hung up the phone. I started getting text messages from him on my Roshan phone and messages on Facebook Messenger where he was like, all right, I'm sorry I came off a little bit brash with you. He's like, please be at the mission brief. And I was like, sir, I'm not coming. I was on the goddamn flight line all night. I was like, I am not going to be at your fucking mission brief. And he was like, please come, whatever. He's like, I'm sorry that I snapped at you a little bit and whatever. And I was like, look, sir, the only way that I'm coming to this mission brief is if I come in what I'm wearing right now. And he said, I don't give a shit if you come dressed in a fucking chicken suit, just be here. And I was like,
Manchester?
Okay. Yeah. I showed up. Keep in mind, this is Kandahar, Afghanistan. I had to walk because I didn't have a vehicle. I had to walk 1.5 miles through Kandahar, Afghanistan, dressed in Army PT shorts that I had rolled all the way up to where they looked like booty shorts, combat boots, sunglasses, an M9 pistol, and an M4. Not a single fuck was part of my uniform. So I walked from Camp Denali all the way to the mission brief area in Kandahar, Afghanistan. Show up, no shirt, a fucking Thug Life tattoo across my goddamn stomach. Show up to this mission brief, and they're like, Sergeant Hayes, you are not properly dressed for this. And I was like, no shit. So get to the mission brief, and like there was a sergeant major in this mission brief, and he was like, you outside right now. And I was like, can't wait. So go outside. Fucking can't wait. Go outside with the sergeant major, and he was like, do you know where the fuck you are? He was like, you're in Afghanistan right now. Do you think this is a joke? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I mean, yeah, kinda. And he was like, this is called battle fatigue, gentlemen. And he was like, where's your fucking K-pot? Which is what the older folk call your ACH, your Army Combat Helmet. He was like, where's your fucking body armor? He was like, you walk straight through Sniper Alley with no body armor? I was like, yeah, I do. I know I walked straight through that motherfucker with no body armor. I got it. So then, Lou, my boss, I almost name dropped him. Been drinking. My boss came out there and was like, Sergeant Hayes, glad you could make it to the mission brief. You can leave. And I was like, thanks, sir. Appreciate that. And I left. I literally showed up to a mission brief in Kandahar, Afghanistan, wearing booty shorts, boots, and had an M4 and an M9 and sunglasses. I have pictures to prove it. This is a thing that happened. I walked through Kandahar, Afghanistan 1.5 miles with that was my uniform.
What's the chances the locking block in that M9 was about ready to take a shit at any moment? Like,
boy, what are the odds that it happens with any of them, really? But I mean, like, I was so tired. I was so fucking done that I was just like, whatever. If I get shot on my way in, I get shot on my way in. It happens.
That's how you know you hit fuck it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was balls deep in fuck it.
Sniper Alley. Okay. We call that Tuesday. We call that Tuesday.
Yeah. I was man. I had super hit fuck it. But yeah. Good times.
Good times.
I cannot come up with a better way to end the show than that. So fuck it. I'm done. I got nothing else. Sponsors, ad reads, Google's, Facebook's, Apple Chat. You both.
I'll take it, Kent.
Please, Cam, God.
Cam, as always, brother, thank you for being on the show and thank you for sharing the insights with us. I know we've probably scarred Kent for life, but yeah, some things are worth it, right? Folks. Just in closing here, we would not be who we are today if it were not for our service in the military. Yeah, when I tell you that, while I mock some of the, the marketing posters and the gimmicks and stuff like that, and I know Cam certainly knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. The reality of the situation is that there is one thing about military service that is abundantly clear and true. It will change you. It will make you a better man, a better woman in so many ways. Despite the darkness, I would say for every ounce of horror that Cam or I could probably shower you with, and regale you with the stories of, wartime and whatnot, there are exponentially more shining lights of hope and just pure human awesomeness that I know that I got to experience. And I like to believe that Cam's experiences echo that as well. So Cam, thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing that with us. We want to have you back, of course, as usual. You have a regular spot on this show. We want to have you back. And I think this conversation deserves a little bit more conversation, right? There's more questions to be answered, right? And I think we're certainly doing a service, regardless of how the information might be received. Folks, the reality is, is vulgar, dark, funny, whatever the case might be, it's 100% true. And that's what we're going to provide to you right here on this podcast. The truth is best that we can explain it. So with that being said, the podcast we are happy to present to you as freely as we possibly can. But with that being said, it does still cost Kent and I out of our own pockets to present this information to you and present these conversations and these topics of discussion to you. We wouldn't be able to continue doing this if it weren't for support from our viewers and our patrons, as it were. And with that, we do have a list of affiliate links and businesses that we have associations with. You can see a list of all of those affiliations at greenmountaindefense.com/affiliate-links. You're going to buy gun stuff anyway. There's no markup additional for supporting the channel, but we do get a little bit of a kickback when you make purchases using those links. So we appreciate you patronizing those vendors and those businesses. We wouldn't list them if they weren't a reputable source of quality products, and we're happy to be partners with each of them. We always appreciate you guys joining us for the lively chat that we have going on during the live broadcast. But if by some chance you missed the live broadcast, you can always catch us on your favorite podcast player, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, we're probably there. So we encourage you to tell your friends and your family members to come on by and digest some of the information that we're bringing to you. Similarly, we love taking questions and comments from our audience. You can find us on Facebook, Sling'N Led Podcast. You can find Kent and myself on Instagram and social media under Lead Sling and Ginger and Green Mountain Defense. Cam, of course, you can find at Hayes C494, at least on Instagram while he's in Facebook jail. Won't be the first time, won't be the last, but damn it, we love him. There ain't many like it, but this one is ours. So with that, folks, God bless you all. Take care of each other. Until we see you again, get out and shoot.